I took out a $100,000 loan to save my parents' home, they sold it behind my back, disappeared, and left me holding a secret I was never supposed to find. You know, if you told me 5 years ago I'd be writing this, I would have laughed and poured you another cup of coffee. My parents weren't perfect, hell, whose are? But they were mine. I grew up in that house on Sycamore Street. Red bricks, creaky porch swing, a backyard big enough for 4th of July barbecues and teenage heartbreaks. It wasn't just a structure, it was the container of our history. The kind of place you imagine handing down to your kids one day, like some sacred torch. So when Mom called me that March afternoon, her voice barely a whisper, I didn't hesitate. Honey, the bank, they're threatening foreclosure. Just like that, everything tilted. I had just gotten back from a client meeting, briefcase still slung over my shoulder. My career was finally on the up, mid-level architect at a boutique firm in Charlotte, North Carolina. Not rolling in dough, but stable. The thought of losing the family home? Unthinkable. They needed $93,000 to cover everything, back taxes, late mortgage payments, and fines. They'd already missed 2 modification opportunities. The house was weeks away from auction. I told them I'd take care of it. I meant it. Of course, I didn't have that kind of cash lying around. So I did what any son would do when the ghosts of his childhood are at risk of being bulldozed. I took out a personal loan. $100,000. High interest, even higher stress. I didn't tell my fiancée Rachel the full truth at first. I spun it as helping my parents with some emergency home repairs. And that wasn't a lie, exactly. Because once the loan hit my account, the renovation avalanche began. The old plumbing. Replaced. The roof that leaked every time it drizzled. Reinforced and resealed. I even convinced my buddy Marcus, a contractor, to cut me a deal on new siding. Every weekend for months, I was back in that house, hammer in hand, sweating through my old high school hoodie. Mom kept bringing me lemonade like I was still 15. Dad, who'd been slowing down a lot since his mild stroke, mostly supervised from a lawn chair, nodding solemnly and offering unsolicited advice. Use the galvanized nails on that trim, not the cheap stuff. You want it to last. At first, it felt like a kind of homecoming. Rachel didn't love all the weekends I was gone, but she understood, or said she did. I told myself it was temporary. That I was doing the right thing. That one day, my kids would play in that same backyard, under that same oak tree where I broke my wrist trying to be Superman. But then small things started shifting. It started with my dad getting cagey about paperwork. I needed some documents signed for a lien release, and suddenly he was too tired, too busy, too distracted. Then Mom started missing my calls. They said they were stressed, grateful, overwhelmed. I believed them. Or tried to. Until one weekend, in late September, I came to the house and found a moving truck in the driveway. What the hell is going on? I asked, heart in my throat. Dad looked at me like I was the one with explaining to do. We're just clearing out the garage. Too much junk in there. Your mom's idea. But there were boxes in the living room. Labeled ones. This looks like more than the garage, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Mom stepped in, too quickly. We're decluttering, honey. You know, in case we ever want to sell. My stomach turned. Sell? After everything? After We're not selling, Dad snapped, cutting me off. We're just getting options together. You never know. The market's good. That night, I couldn't sleep. Rachel noticed. Something wrong with the house. Maybe. Maybe with me, I replied. I didn't know yet that the real story was far worse than I could imagine. That this wasn't about financial hardship or aging parents making rash decisions. This was something else entirely. And I was already in too deep to see it. If I had any illusions left that I was doing a noble thing, they started falling apart in October. Slowly at first. Like hairline fractures in drywall, barely visible, but growing. Rachel's patience, for one, had worn thin. She started coming home later. I'd ask how her day went, and she'd offer these distant, clipped answers like she was already somewhere else. When I suggested we get away for a weekend, she didn't even look up from her phone. Maybe when you're done with your fixer-upper family. That hit harder than I expected. She'd never called it that before. Fixer-upper family. Like they were a project I'd taken on out of pity or pride. I wanted to believe she was just stressed, too. That her work was pulling her in all directions. But deep down, I knew she was pulling away, and I wasn't chasing fast enough. Meanwhile, back at Sycamore Street, things got weirder. I came by one Sunday morning, unannounced. I used to walk in with my own key. This time, it didn't work. The locks had been changed. Mom opened the door, startled and flustered. "Oh. You should have called first. We had a locksmith come by. Routine maintenance. Routine maintenance on locks that worked fine for 20 years. She ignored the question, ushered me inside, and offered me coffee like nothing happened. But the house didn't smell like home. The furniture had been rearranged. The family photos on the mantel were gone, replaced with generic landscape prints. Their wedding photo was missing, replaced with a blurry watercolor of the Blue Ridge Mountains. "Where's the old stuff?" "In storage," Mom said too quickly. "We're just simplifying." I started noticing new things. Fresh coats of paint. The upstairs bathroom had a new vanity. And I hadn't approved any of it. I'd budgeted the loan for the essentials, roof, plumbing, siding. Nothing more. "Did you hire someone else?" I asked. Mom's smile froze. "Your dad wanted to take care of a few things himself. You know how he gets." Except Dad had been limping for months. He wasn't climbing ladders or hauling lumber. Later that week, I called Marcus. "Hey man, did my parents get anyone else to do work after we wrapped?" He hesitated. "Actually, yeah. Some guys came by asking for quotes. Said they were flipping the place. I figured plans changed." "Thought you knew." Flipping the place. That phrase rang in my head like a siren. That night, I went home and pored over my emails. I'd saved every receipt, every contract, every transfer. I was knee-deep in the paperwork when I saw something that made my blood run cold. The deed. It was still in their name. I had no lien, no legal claim. I'd taken out the loan, I'd paid every invoice, but my name wasn't attached to that house in any binding way. I felt like I was underwater. Rachel came in, saw the folders spread across the table, and sighed. "Still playing hero? Do you think they're lying to me?" I asked quietly. She didn't answer right away. Then she said something that would echo in my mind for weeks: "Maybe they're not lying. Maybe they just never saw you as part of the plan." I couldn't sleep. Again. The next morning, I drove by the house on my way to work. There was a white SUV parked in the driveway I didn't recognize. A woman came out carrying a binder. She wasn't family. Later, I called Mom. "Who was the woman at the house this morning?" Pause. Too long. "Oh, just someone from the neighborhood board. Asking about renovations." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But deep down, I knew this was the beginning of something else. Something I wasn't ready to face. I didn't go back to the house for 3 weeks. I told myself I was busy at work. That I was giving my parents space. That maybe Rachel and I needed time to find our footing again. None of that was true. I was avoiding the truth like a coward. The truth was, something had shifted in that house. Something I couldn't name. The locks, the art, the weirdly evasive conversations. I knew it wasn't just a renovation project anymore. But I didn't have proof. Not yet. Then one Friday evening, I came home to find a plain manila envelope wedged in our mailbox. No return address. No stamp. Just my name. Scrawled in capital letters, Ben. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Typed. They're not telling you the whole story. You should ask Rachel where she was the night of April 17th. Ask her what she knows about Valley Street. She won't tell you. But you deserve to know. No signature. I read it 3 times before the chill even hit my spine. April 17th. That was the night I stayed late at the site in Chapel Hill, helping a client visualize her new restaurant layout. I remembered because Rachel had been oddly supportive about it. Said she'd make dinner and wait up. When I got home, the lights were off. She said she fell asleep. I didn't think twice. Valley Street. I had no idea what that was. Sounded like a street name, but it didn't ring any bells. That night, I confronted her. Rach, where were you on April 17th? She looked up from her laptop, clearly thrown off. What? Why? That was months ago. Something's not adding up. You said you stayed home. She laughed. Forced. I did. Ben, seriously, what is this? Did my mom call you again about our wedding invites or something? I held up the letter. Her face drained. Where did you get that? It was in the mailbox. Someone dropped it off today. Who wrote this? I don't know. Probably one of your weirdo cousins trying to stir up drama. Valley Street. What even is that? But her voice was too high, too fast. And her hands? They were shaking. I let it go, for the moment. But something had broken open. The next day, I drove around town. There was a Valley Street. It was on the outskirts, half industrial, half residential. Mostly warehouses, 1 or 2 pawn shops. Nothing that made sense. I parked across from a squat beige building with a faded sign that read, Valley Title Services. I don't know why I went in. An older woman with blue glasses greeted me. Can I help you? I'm just trying to learn more about a property my family might have worked with. On Sycamore Street. She paused, clicked through something on her computer. Name. Ben Holloway. My parents are Stephen and Elaine Holloway. Click. Click. She squinted at the screen. Ah. There it is. Valley Street wasn't the property, it was the processing firm. They handled the title paperwork for the Sycamore property. Wait, what title paperwork? The transfer. Your parents sold the home last month. Closed on the 21st. I felt the words punch through me. Who did they sell it to? She looked at the screen again. Purchaser was listed under a trust. Valley Renewal Trust. That's pretty common nowadays. Hard to trace. Can I see the documents? Sorry, I can't share those unless you're on the record. Which, you're not. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Text from Rachel, please come home. We need to talk. When I walked in, she was sitting on the edge of the bed, hands folded like a schoolgirl in trouble. Ben, I didn't lie. Not completely. I didn't know how to tell you. Tell me what? She looked up, eyes red. Your parents sold the house to someone I used to work for. He approached me months ago. Said he was interested in old properties with potential. I didn't think anything of it, just passed the address along. I didn't know he'd. You passed along my family's house like a Craigslist listing. It wasn't like that. He offered a referral fee, and I didn't take it. I swear, Ben. I never thought they'd actually sell. The room felt like it was spinning. So this whole time, you knew? Not until a few weeks ago. I tried to tell you. But every time I saw how much it meant to you, I just froze. That night, I slept on the couch. Or tried to. Because now it wasn't just about my parents. It was about Rachel. And something told me this wasn't the end of her secrets. I thought it couldn't get worse. But it did. For days after the fight with Rachel, I got a call from an unfamiliar number while I was in the middle of drafting site revisions for a community center project. I almost let it go to voicemail. Wish I had. Mr. Holloway. This is Daniel Rothman, real estate attorney. I'm calling in regards to the property on East Briar Lane. We need to finalize some paperwork. I blinked, half convinced he had the wrong person. I think you've got the wrong Holloway, I said. I don't own anything on East Briar. A pause. Then the rustle of papers. That's odd. You're listed as the primary on the trust. Valley Renewal Trust. The same trust that bought my parents' house. My mouth went dry. I'm sorry, what did you just say? It's a secondary property in the trust. The seller already signed. We're just waiting on your side. I scribbled down the address. Hung up. My hands were shaking. That night, I drove to East Briar Lane. The house was small, nondescript. White siding. Boarded windows. The yard was overgrown, but the for sale sign had a fresh, under contract rider across it. I sat in the car, watching it like it might explain itself. Who put my name on that trust? How was I involved? I called Marcus. Can you meet me tomorrow morning? I need you to look at a place with me. He showed up in his old Tacoma, coffee in hand, brow already furrowed. We walked around the perimeter. This place needs work, he said. But I've seen worse. You thinking of flipping it? I'm thinking I didn't buy it. I didn't even know about it. His eyebrows shot up. What do you mean you didn't buy it? Your name's on the paperwork, right? Yeah. But I never signed anything. He stared at me for a long moment. Then said, dude, you need a lawyer. I did. But first, I needed answers. I confronted Rachel again that night. Did you put my name on a trust? Valley Renewal Trust. She was in the kitchen, chopping garlic. She froze. No, she said too quickly. Rachel. Don't lie. Okay, she whispered. I didn't start it. But I helped set it up. Months ago. Before you even took out the loan. I felt something in my chest snap. Why the hell would you do that? She was crying now. Because they asked me to. Your parents. They said they were trying to preserve the property for the family. But they didn't want legal red tape later. They wanted a trust in your name, so it would all be seamless. You thought that sounded legit? They seemed so genuine. I swear, I thought it was your idea. They made it sound like you were in on it. That you just didn't want to deal with lawyers. I walked out. And I drove straight to a law office recommended by a friend of Marcus. The receptionist was efficient, the lighting cold. The attorney, a woman named Lisa Tan, took one look at the trust paperwork I emailed and said, "This is weird. Can someone create a trust in my name without me knowing?" She shook her head. Not legally. But if someone forged your signature, or accessed your digital ID, it could be done. Especially if they had access to your personal documents. My parents have everything, I muttered. Social, birth certificate. She nodded slowly. We need to pull financials. Bank records. See if any funds moved through accounts linked to the trust. The next day, she called me. There's a bank account tied to the trust. Opened 6 weeks ago. 2 large deposits totaling $110,000. Then, a wire transfer to an offshore account. Under a shell company. Where's the money now? Gone. That night, I tried calling my parents. No answer. I called their neighbors, family friends, even the local pharmacy. Haven't seen them in weeks, Mrs. Geller next door said. Thought they were on vacation. I checked their house. Empty. Not even a forwarding address. They were gone. And so was the money. I sat in Lisa's office 2 days later, flipping through documents I barely understood. The trust. The wiring instructions. The notarized papers with my name neatly signed across them in perfect cursive. Except I don't write in cursive. I never have. This isn't my signature, I said quietly. Lisa nodded. We'll have a handwriting analyst confirm it, but I believe you. And there's more. She slid another document toward me. A beneficiary form. Valley Renewal Trust had one listed successor, should I be found legally incapable or unwilling to manage the assets. Name, Gideon Hale. Who the hell is Gideon Hale? Lisa didn't answer right away. Instead, she opened a browser and typed in the name. A handful of articles popped up. A decade-old bankruptcy. A fraud investigation. A quiet settlement in 2015. The face that stared back at me from an old Business Journal article made my stomach drop. I knew him. He wasn't Gideon Hale back then. He was Howard Vance, my father's former business partner, the guy who nearly took down Dad's contracting firm in the late 2000s. The guy who disappeared right after the books came under audit. You know him, Lisa said, reading my expression. He ruined my dad's life. My dad used to call him a parasite in a Rolex. I haven't heard that name since I was in high school. He's the one who started Valley Renewal Trust. Rachel didn't just set it up. She worked under him at Renson Properties. The whole thing was a front. It felt like my bones were hollow. You're telling me my fiancé helped an old con artist trick my parents into selling their house? Lisa hesitated. That's the thing. I don't think your parents were tricked. I think they were in on it. She pulled up one final document, an email between Elaine Holloway and an address registered to a shell company in the Caymans. Subject, transfer complete. Body, let him believe it was all for the house. He'll never question it. He's too loyal. Once the money clears, we disappear. Like we planned. I pushed back from the table. The room tilted sideways. They planned this, I whispered. All of them. Lisa closed her laptop softly. Ben, this isn't just a family betrayal. This is criminal. You've been used as a patsy in a money laundering operation. I stood, but my legs barely held. I need air. I need to see her. I drove home, heart pounding like it wanted to punch its way out of my chest. Rachel's car was in the driveway. I parked behind her. Walked in through the front door. She was in the kitchen again. Same place as last time. But this time, she didn't look surprised. She looked tired. You know, for someone who lied to my face for 6 months, you don't look very sorry. She didn't answer. Was any of it real? Us? She looked at me. I didn't think it would go this far. At first it was just a job. Just intel. Then your mom asked me to get close. She said you were pliable. That you'd do anything for the house. And you did it. She nodded. I laughed. Bitter. Hollow. You people chose the wrong son. She blinked. What? You don't even know, do you? That loan wasn't just for the house. I had options. Ways to protect myself. I didn't use them, because I trusted you. For the first time, her eyes filled. Ben, I'm so sorry. But sorry doesn't undo fraud. It doesn't fix stolen money. Or rewrite betrayal. I walked out. The next morning, I met Lisa again. We filed an official complaint. Launched the investigation. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I was drowning. I felt like I was fighting. It moved fast after that. Once Lisa submitted the complaint and flagged the trust to the Financial Crimes Division, the dam broke. Gideon Hale, aka Howard Vance, was already under surveillance. My case gave them the missing link between his laundering scheme and several shell trusts across the Southeast. Apparently, I wasn't the only beneficiary who'd been used like a chess piece. Rachel vanished the same week. Her car was gone, her email dead, her phone disconnected. The ring she used to wear. Left on the windowsill in the bathroom like some poetic afterthought. I didn't know if I'd ever see her again. But then, on a stormy Tuesday afternoon, I got a knock at my door. It was her. Soaked, shaking, eyes rimmed red. "You shouldn't be here," I said. She nodded. "I know. But I didn't know where else to go." I let her in. Stupid? Maybe. But sometimes closure looks like a second chance to say no. She sat at the kitchen table like she still lived there. Like we were going to talk about takeout or Netflix. "They're going to arrest me," she said, voice barely above a whisper. I leaned against the wall. "Probably. But you could stop it. If you don't push for charges. You want me to protect you? After everything?" She flinched. "No. I want you to hear the rest." So I listened. She told me how it started, how Gideon found her while she was still at Renson. He promised money, a new life. Told her I was the perfect mark. That I was desperate to belong. That I'd hand over anything if I thought I was preserving a legacy. She said my parents bought in immediately. Said they felt like they deserved the payout after a lifetime of scraping by. Said they were tired. Said love didn't pay the bills. "I didn't love you at first," she said. "But then I did. And by then it was too late." We sat there, two people surrounded by a life they'd burned. "You know what the worst part is?" I finally said. "I still want to believe some of that's true. That part of you was real." She didn't answer. The next morning, I gave Lisa the location where Rachel was hiding. I didn't go with them. I couldn't. The investigation went public a month later. News outlets ran pieces with words like embezzlement, shell corporations, federal charges. My face wasn't in the headlines, but I could feel the ripple. Lisa called me one evening, just before Thanksgiving. We recovered a portion of the money. Offshore transfer got frozen mid-process. You may be able to pay off your loan. Maybe even something more. And the rest? Gone. But you're getting your name cleared. That's something. It didn't feel like enough. But it was a start. As for my parents, they never resurfaced. Rumors swirled, Ecuador, Belize, some obscure island in the Mediterranean. Lisa said we might never track them down. And weirdly, I didn't want to anymore. They made their choice. And I finally made mine. I sold what was left of the house on East Briar. Took a job out west. New city. New apartment. New phone number. Some nights I still think about Sycamore Street. About Rachel laughing in our kitchen. About a version of my life that wasn't built on lies. But I also think about the person I was before all this, the one who would have handed over everything for the illusion of family. I'm not that person anymore. That guy died the day I found the envelope in the mailbox. The man who lived. He knows better now. He builds his own foundation.